Successful people learn how to make their mind work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Know your friends. The first friend, and this is, let me preface this a little bit more. Because normally I teach this lesson in a live setting and it goes on for about an hour or so. So I was having a little bit of trouble condensing it. But this is a great knowing, a great lesson for a person who is attempting to walk consciously in their world and really create their own life. A person who is unconscious, it's not that they don't experience this. It's just they have no fucking idea what's happening. They really don't. They don't. And if nobody ever breaks this apart for you, you probably wouldn't either. I didn't until somebody broke it apart for me. And it made so much sense after I learned it that it made a huge difference in my life. The first type of friend is what we call a confidant. A confidant. This is a friend or a few friends. Like, you'll be lucky if you have 2 or 3 of these in a lifetime. This is a person who is there for you no matter what. You go to jail, they're there. You fuck up the biggest fuck up in your life, they're there. They don't judge you. They love you unconditionally. They are for you. They are for you. No matter what, they're for you. And when I tell you that you'll only meet a few of these people if you're lucky in your lifetime, I'm dead serious. This person, this is a unique thing about this. And if you just observe success wherever it's found, you will see that this is true if it's available for you to see it. Meaning that sometimes when you see one person who's really successful, there's always somebody else there with them, but you don't always see who that person is because one person may be center stage more than somebody else. But this is, they come in twos. So you're not going to have the success that you want until you meet this person in your life. You will not. You will not have the success that you want until you meet this person. You can be somewhat successful, but you're never really going to go to the heights of what you really want until you meet this person. Because you need somebody who's a friend, somebody who can be honest for you, somebody who will be there to cheer with you, somebody that will be there to cry with you, but you also need somebody there who can feed you. Most of the problems that we have is that we surround ourselves with people that, I'll say it this way, but I don't mean it in a derogatory way. They're a little bit less than you are, right? And what I mean by that is you know more in general than they do. You're constantly feeding them, but they can't feed you. They're great people. They're great people. I don't mean less in a derogatory way, right? They're great people, but they really can't feed you. You're constantly feeding them. And for most people, they go around their whole life surrounding themselves with people like that. So the big problem is that you never get fed the way that you need to be fed in order to create the success that you truly want to create. Okay, this is a confidant. The second person is what we call a constituent. A constituent. Now, this is where most people live in their life. A constituent is for what you're for, but they're not for you. And the unfortunate thing about this is that most people never know this. They never know this. They're for what you're for, but they're not for you. And you will have your heart broke the day that whatever you're for is not for them, because they will leave. I see people experience this probably the most outside of marriage. I see people experience this the most probably with team that they hire. They just don't understand why they had this great team member who left. And they're crushed by it. They thought that they were really great friends. They thought that they were really great partners. And they never realized that the only reason this person was with them was because they were for the same thing, but they were never for you. Now, that takes quite a bit of growth as far as the individual goes, because we have a tendency to project what we want onto other people. And when we project what we want onto other people, if we cast somebody in a role in our life without their participation, we're only screwing ourselves. You will meet a lot of these people, though, through your lifetime. These are the people that most people call their best friends in the world, but they're not. They're not. Because they're for what you're for, and they are not for you. And in most cases, the day will come where they will leave. This, you can see how this would change. This would change when their interest changes or your interest changes. Because they're not for you. They're only for what you're for. It doesn't make them bad people, by the way, right? Don't think of this as any of these people are bad people. The pain and the suffering comes from when we put this person in our mind in the wrong place. When you think about the difference between these two, one very important caution that I will give you is that you have to be careful with who you share your dream with. When you share your dream with somebody, it should only be for people that are for you. It should only be for your confidants. The third person is what we call a comrade. Now, a comrade is not for you. They're not for what you're for, but they're against what you're against. I heard somebody describe this person one time as like the scaffolding on a building. They will come into your life when you need to fight a great battle. And when the battle's fought, they leave. The scaffolding comes down. And what causes so many people to suffer in this is the blurriness of your own boundaries in life. You know, when you're in great pain or you're up against a great enemy in your life, and it's like that one person comes in, man, and you guys are tackling this enemy like you would not believe, there's a tendency to make this person into something that they're not. They're there to help you slay the enemy. They're there to help you get out of a jam. You know, and I see people that think that they fall in love with this person or this is their new business partner, and it always is a disaster because that's not what made the relationship. That's not what attracted the relationship. What attracted the relationship is that you're both against the same thing and you can benefit each other in that space. It's very important. So we have the confidants, which are the people that are for you. They love you unconditionally. They get you. They understand you. You could not possibly fuck up enough for these people to walk out of your life. It's like they have a different understanding than most of the world. And you need this person to go to the next level. Now, that does not mean that if you realize you don't have this person in your life now, that all of a sudden you start looking for this person or putting out an advertising for this person. This person shows up when the time is right. There's nothing I can tell you about how do you attract this person in your life. They show up at the right time. This is one of those things where it's kind of like the divine plan, if there ever was one. You've got to be the right person at the right time, and then you meet this person. And it comes at different times for different people. Like I said before, the biggest thing that you do not want to do is to cast your projection of what you think this person is onto somebody that it is not, because it will cause you great heartache. Now, I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. Probably around, 2011, I think, 2012. I was teaching this in Atlanta. We were doing a seminar. I think we had about 200 people in the room. And of course, the people in the room had never heard this before. And it was one of the first times that I was teaching it. And it was causing a great disturbance in the audience, because people were all of a sudden, it's like the first time you hear this teaching, all of a sudden, all the people in your life start falling into one of these three places. You can't help it. You immediately start to see where people fall into this. And a woman came up to the microphone to ask a question. And she said, I've been listening to you teach this, and here's what I'm wondering. What if you find out, or what if you come to the realization that your spouse is not for you? That your spouse is for what you're for, but your spouse is not for you. And I said, well, then you've got a problem. You've got a problem. And it would create a problem. There's absolutely no question. Now, here's what I didn't know. Her spouse was in the room when she asked this question. And of course, we hear what we want to hear, right? He, in his difficulty, heard me tell her to get a divorce. And I never told her to get a divorce. Never told him to leave him. Nothing. So this guy had a past history that was not good. And his history was that before he started working on himself, he was an arsonist. And he took being an arsonist and became a professional pyrotechnics person. But he went so off the rails at this conversation that his wife was having with me that he was losing it right there in the seminar. A matter of fact, it was really the first time that my security at an event was extremely alarmed at what this person was actually going to do, and rightfully so, because we just had no idea how far he was going to go with this. And we had to literally have, I think we had like 20, 25 people in the event tell him I never said for her to leave him. I never said divorce. I just said you have a problem. That's all I said. But that's not what he was hearing. So I said, listen, I'm perfectly happy to agree to disagree with you. I will give you a refund. You can leave. He's like, I don't want a refund. I'm learning a lot here. But he was so triggered by this. This guy then turned that evening and set the hotel on fire while we were all there. And we had 200 people plus all the other guests in this hotel out on the street at 1:00 in the morning, burned the whole second floor. We were able to finish the event because most of it was smoke damage, but he literally went into the kitchen and created a chemical fire that the police were dumbfounded as to how the fire could have even started. But they had him on the camera walking in with a bunch of stuff in his hands into the kitchen and then walking out, and 20 minutes later, smoke was pouring out of it, and they actually checked out and left. They left before the fire started. The reason I tell you the story is because over the years, whenever I teach people this, it's really powerful as far as the impact that it has in your life, positive or negative. And I think you have to be, if anybody is triggered by this story in a negative way, you've got to calm yourself down and take a deep breath, right? You really do. It does not mean for a big upset in your life. It does not mean you have to walk away from a spouse. It does not mean that you have to fire somebody in your business. What it means is that you need to be aware of the people that you're going to meet in your life and how you should be involved with those people, to what degree. And really, it's about you, not them. It's about how you show up with individuals. You know, when we're in different places in our life, we have a tendency where we're weak to want to cast anybody into a position that appears to have some strength or some power or some expertise. And we kind of forfeit our own power and our boundaries into that place. And it's an extremely dangerous thing to do because it's one of the things that leads to codependency. It's not a good thing. But what this lesson does is it really kind of teaches you where you have to grow when it comes to the people that you have in your life, how you're choosing them, and how you need to interact with those individuals. You know, it's not even so much, because here's another thing, right? You have somebody who is a constituent. They're for what you're for, but they're not for you. And all of a sudden, this person is raving pissed off at you because you did something that is not in alignment with what they're for. And neither one of you, you're both completely unconscious about what's actually happening here. And you think that there's a betrayal, or they think that there's been a betrayal and they don't want anything to do with you, and they're pissed at you, or they're going to sue you, or they're going to create some kind of scandal. Like it's all of a sudden, it's kind of like one of these days you wake up and you're like, this person's totally gone fucking crazy. Like, what the hell's actually happening here, right? In this case, both people assumed that the other person was more than they actually were. Because the truth is, that person would be in your life because you're for what they're for. They're for what you're for, and you're for what they're for. But you do not want to make the mistake of elevating them in your field as to somebody that is more of a confidant than they are a constituent. The other thing is that a constituent very well, when things go wrong, may turn the deepest secrets that you've told them against you. A confidant would never do that. A confidant would never do that. And remember this piece. Confidant will be able to feed you as you're able to feed them. A constituent genuinely can't. And the comrades there, it's a great thing, but those are the people that show up for battle. And you think they're amazing people when they show up, but it's for a moment in time. It's not for a lifetime. It's not for a lifetime. Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to know more, go to davidnagel.com/free stuff.